The Canon R8 in a nutshell is basically the Canon R6 Mark II but in the RP's body and for £1,000 less, and that's basically it. Canon have just announced the Canon EOS R8 and also the R50, but today we're going to be talking about the Canon R8 only because I got to admit, to me and to many others as well, the Canon R8 is looking a little bit too good of a deal. There are some little flaws to it, but is it really worth the extra £1,000 to go to the R6 Mark II because of these flaws? Thinking about it now, I reckon I'll be stupid to actually get the R6 Mark II over the Canon R8. I'm currently using the Canon EOS R8 right now, and it's a great camera, especially for photography. Anyway, it's got a 30.3 megapixel CMOS sensor. It can capture beautiful images. It's not the fastest camera in the world with its, I think, 6 frames per second, but apart from that, it's amazing, to be honest. I love it. But I'm having a big problem with it on the video side because you can only shoot 4K when it's cropped at 24 or 25 or 30, and you can only go up to 60 frames per second in 1080p, and if you want a super slow-mo 120 frames per second, it's in a terrible 720p. And in 2023, no one should be shooting in 720p, and that is actually why I have not touched that feature at all in this camera. So learning that Canon are actually releasing a brand new full frame mirrorless camera around the same price point as the Canon R when I brought it, it's getting me very, very excited, to be honest, because I've been planning on upgrading my camera for ages. I've gone from the R5, the R6, the R6 Mark II. I've gone through so many different cameras and I keep changing my mind, but honestly now I actually think that I'm set on the Canon R8 because I reckon I'll be stupid to actually get Canon R6 Mark II after finding out that literally the exact same specs are found in the Canon R8 but for £1,000 less. So the Canon R8 basically has a 24.2 megapixel full frame CMOS sensor, which is the exact same brand new sensor found in the Canon R6 Mark II. It's also got the dual pixel CMOS AF2 system that's in the R6 Mark II and also the R3, so you get their latest autofocus system. Also, it's like, with it being low megapixels, it's better in low light than, for example, the EOS R or the R5. You can shoot the exact same 40 frames per second in the electronic shutter with the Canon EOS R, which is the exact same in the Canon R6 Mark II. 40 frames per second is ridiculous. It's basically a video if you actually play it back all at once. However, though, it doesn't actually have a mechanical shutter. I've seen some videos online where you can actually shoot 6 frames per second mechanically, but then I've heard people say that it doesn't have a mechanical shutter. And I actually saw a video, Pete McKinnon's video, I think, where he actually said that you can't, when you turn off the camera, no shutter comes down to block the sensor. Like on cinema cameras, it's just exposed, so you've got to be careful about that. And that makes me obviously think that there's no mechanical shutter in this Canon R8 itself. But I think I've actually seen videos saying this is only a problem if you like shooting weddings when you're actually using like external flashes or portraits, because apparently you get banned in or something. I'm not entirely sure about that anyway, but I actually think it's obviously another reason how they actually kept the weight down, because if you actually don't know, this is the lightest camera Canon actually offer that's full frame, and which is pretty crazy, to be honest. And like I said earlier, it's basically in the RP's body, apart from they've changed the on and off switch to the new R6 Mark II, but the on and off switch is on your right and the photo to video is on the left. And you can also shoot 30 frames per second raw burst mode with a 0.5 pre-shot. So if you're like at a football game, for example, or anywhere really, and you want to capture a shot and you think you might have missed it, it'll actually capture 0.5 seconds before you actually press the shutter button, so you actually won't miss a shot unless you've gone over that time. Now I gotta say, for me, the Canon R8's biggest selling point is the 4K 60 frames per second oversampled from 6K. When I actually made a video on the specs the other day, I actually was sure it was going to be cropped because of the price point that was actually leaked at the time, which has obviously turned out to be true. But the fact that this camera is not cropped at 4K 60, which is oversampled from 6K, and it can also shoot 10-bit 422 in C-Log 3 at £1,700 is ridiculous. It's the exact same as the Canon R6 Mark II. When I was actually looking to upgrade my camera, I wanted the normal original Canon R6 or Canon R5. The Canon R5 was a bit too expensive, so I was going to get the R6, but unfortunately with the overheating and the video features not being that good, obviously I was going to wait because there was some rumours about the R6 Mark II. And when that got released, everyone was talking about how big of an upgrade the R6 Mark II for video is over the R6. And everyone was saying how good it is and how good of a price point and probably the perfect camera around that price point, and it probably still is, to be fair. But the fact that this camera is £1,000 less than the Canon R6 Mark II with the exact same video features and photo features as it is absolutely brilliant, and this is why I'm getting so excited for it, because I've got the specs that I want in a cheaper body. And not only that, you also get the same 180 frames per second in full HD, whereas on my Canon EOS R, like I said earlier, I only get 120 frames per second in 720p. So that's a huge upgrade on that as well. You get a 2-hour record limit in 4K 24 to 30, and and 25, and that's absolutely great because you're not really going to be recording someone for 2 hours straight unless it's like a live stream or something, so you don't have to worry about it like turning off. Like my Canon EOS R's got a 30-minute record limit, but in 4K 60 it has got a maximum record limit time of 30 minutes. But I actually don't really know anyone who's going to be shooting 4K 60 continuously for that long, so I don't think that's a big deal at all. That's why I absolutely love this camera so much, and I'm really looking forward to actually buying it, because I think I will actually get it, because the actual flaws that we're going to be talking about now, I don't think they're big enough flaws to actually justify buying the Canon R6 Mark II for £1,000 more. Some of the flaws are obviously the body itself, with it being the RP's body. Basically what that means is it has the same exact batteries as the RP, which I think they're called Canon LPE17 batteries, and basically they're half the time, like they last half as long as the LPE6 batteries that you'll find in all the other Canon R bodies apart from the RP. Now obviously you're going to get like an hour record time, I think, when you're actually continuously recording, which is not the best. Unless they release like a battery grip for this, you're not going to be able to record the most like long session time at all. I don't think it'll be as bad as photography, but at least these camera batteries are a lot cheaper than the LPE6 ones, so you're not going to really like spend a fortune on the batteries either. As long as you got like 3 or 4 at a time, I reckon you'll be fine. So that's a little bit annoying because I have a load of LPE6 batteries, so I do have to buy some more of these batteries when I do get it. But another really annoying thing I've got to admit for me, it's got 1 SD card slot instead of 2 over the R6 Mark II. I'm not bothered about the 1 card slot, it's because my Canon EOS R has that. It's the position of it. It's actually where the battery is, and my Fuji X-T30 had that, and it was the most annoying thing ever when it was on tripods and that. For example, my SD card just ran out now, like halfway through recording this, and all I had to do was quickly flick it off at the side of the camera, put it in, transfer it over, delete some stuff and put it back. However, with it being underneath, it's going to be really awkward to actually find the spot and put it back in, so that's just a little bit of a flaw, to be fair. It's not the biggest flaw in the world. Also, it doesn't have the wheel at the back to actually scroll through the menus, and it doesn't have the joystick either. I have the Canon EOS R, which hasn't got the wheel at the back or the joystick. It's got the touchpad. So to be fair, at the end of the day, that's not a big enough deal for me. But I think a big deal, to be fair to a lot of people, is that the Canon R8 does not have in-body image stabilization. Now, obviously, for photos, if you want to crank down the shutter speed to as low as possible, that will help with that, especially if you're in like a dark environment like events. For me, mainly as a video shooter, the video side of it, it will be a lot shaky, especially with it being very, very light as well. You will get some micro jitters. However, I'm using a Canon EOS R, which again hasn't got in-body image stabilization. Do I really want to spend an extra £1,000 just to get in-body image stabilization when, one, I've not ever used it before ever because I have the Canon EOS R, and I've used the Canon R5C, which doesn't have it either, and also I actually own a gimbal, so when I actually do want to do big projects, or if I actually want to get some really nice footage, I'm just going to put it on a gimbal anyway. Yes, for run and gunning, if I'm doing some quick B-roll here and there, like in this room, or if I'm out and I'm running gunning, yes, it might not be the most stable footage ever, but I think I'd rather have an extra £1,000 in my back pocket than actually spending on the R6 Mark II. You never know, that £1,000 could actually go towards a brilliant lens, for example, like a 100mm macro, or it could actually go towards like a U70-200 f2.8, where I think you'll benefit so much from actually getting a lens like that and the Canon R8 over just getting the Canon R6 Mark II. But anyway, I think I'm going to actually get this camera because at the end of the day, I think it beats the Canon EOS R in every single category, apart from battery and an extra 6 megapixels, which I don't think is a big enough difference, or anyone will notice that anyway. Obviously it has the LCD screen at the top as well over the normal mechanical one, but again, who cares about that really? It's got so much better video features than the Canon EOS R. It's got better photography features as well, better autofocus, better frames per second shooting as well. It's literally an R6 Mark II and an RP's body. I can't wait for this camera. What do you actually think? Are you excited? Are you underwhelmed? Do you think this is a mad surprise and are you going to buy one? I'm actually really looking forward to it, so leave your comments down below because I really want to know. However, if you did actually enjoy this video here, you might actually like this little podcast of mine that I actually made where I talk about the Canon R1 and where actually is it, and also if you actually are getting the Canon EOS R8, you have to remember there's no third-party lenses for that as well, and I also talk about that there, so make sure you click on this video next.